and it is the third Monday. So y'all know what it is. It is the brand new development series brought to you by JNF Enterprises and Black Professional Men, where it is our mission to secure the future of the African American male. And we do that by bringing you thing, information, knowledge, and resources that will educate you, elevate you, and activate you, because that is our purpose in the community, and that is what we seek to do. And tonight will be no different than any other time that we do, and we are bringing you some of the, I just call it some of the exceptional, phenomenal, just impactful, influential people that are in and not just around the Maryland and Baltimore area, but are doing some great things both nationally and globally. And today is we have a treat for you all. If y'all don't already know this brother, you all will want to know him because he is someone that has been a staple in the speaking industry, but then also with the great things that he's doing with the Black Speakers Network. And we're going to be talking about that a little later. But this is none other that I have with me today than Mr. Brian Olds. And well, let me say Brian
Sir.
J. Olds.
We out here.
So how's it going, brother? How you doing, Brian?
Listen, Leroy, man, you can introduce me anywhere, anytime, brother. I'm doing well, doing really well, man. It's 2021 is a great year. Obviously, there's a lot to talk about, a lot to celebrate coming out of 2020 and everything that entrepreneurs and speakers and the folks that we serve have been through. But I'm excited. My thing every day, man, as you probably know, is have fun, make money, and make an impact. So
It is.
I'm excited.
It is. And doing all three at the same time ain't nothing wrong with it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Hey man, I want to start off our conversation this evening by just I want to have you introduce yourself to those that may not be familiar with you and know who you are and what you do and everything like that. And then we'll get into our conversation where we're going to be talking about tonight the power of effective storytelling and finding your voice in your story. So I'm gonna let you take the mic and introduce yourself and tell people a little bit about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you, man. Again, Leroy, we go way back like car seats, man. So it is always a pleasure to share a platform with you. But good evening or good morning, wherever you are. Super excited to have an opportunity to connect again. My name is Brian Olds. I am the president and founder of Black Speakers Network, or BSN, as we like to call ourselves. If you have not heard of Black Speakers Network, we are membership-based speaker development and training association. Our mission is to equip, connect, and inspire the next generation of Black professional speakers. I currently have an incredible community online of about 13,000 current and aspiring professional speakers. And these are speakers for across multiple industries from science, technology, engineering, leadership, development, diversity and inclusion, healthcare, you name it. But the cool part, Leroy, is that it's very much something, they always tell you in business to act locally but think globally, and that's exactly what I did in 2016 when we
Wow.
first started the organization. And so going into our fifth year of business, we built the brand from literally zero to now over six figures. This will be our second year hitting that milestone. Probably should hopefully be somewhere. My goal is certainly to take it to a seven-figure brand within the next 18 to 24 months. And so beyond that, the idea is to be able to help speakers connect with the audience that they're called to serve. Our tagline is to speak up. Your audience awaits, because I truly believe that everyone, not just in our community, but
Mhm.
really everyone has an audience that they're called to serve. Now, as you know, Leroy, they may not all identify as speakers. That's totally fine. But the idea is that you have someone that is waiting for you to take action. You've learned lessons throughout your life. You've have gained experience and wisdom that can be repackaged and shared in a way. It could be done for profit or not for profit, but the idea is that there's an audience out there waiting for you to speak up. And so, definitely very excited to have an opportunity to lead an organization like this and continue to grow. Outside of that, my my other interests are focused on entrepreneurs in general. And
Mhm.
so, very much spend a lot of time talking about advocating for Black businesses, entrepreneurs, and ensuring that we have a strong alignment to this mission of Black professional men, which is ensuring the future of the African American male and ultimately the African American family. So that's who I am, man.
That is awesome. And like I said, we know I know, and y'all may not, but Brian does so much more for not just speakers, like you said, but for entrepreneurs and for them being able to find their voice to be able to bring their message beyond the stage. And the organization is just phenomenal in what they do and giving those entrepreneurs, because some of the speakers are entrepreneurs as well, and that's an important part of it. But being able to do what they do. All right, I'm gonna start off our conversation by asking you this question. Okay, what makes a good storyteller? What makes a good storyteller?
What makes a good storyteller or a good story?
No, a good storyteller. We'll get into what makes a good
Okay.
story too, but I'm gonna start. What makes a good storyteller?
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Well, believe it or not, I think most people are actually inherently probably better storytellers
Hmm,
than they would give themselves credit for. And
okay.
speaking, a lot of times we say that the heart of speaking is storytelling. And
Hmm,
so, being in the Black community, I mean, you've
hmm.
experienced this, Leroy. Like, if you ever been to any cookout, if you ever been to any family reunion, if you've been to any uncle like pulled you aside and was like, "Hey, let me tell you, what this is about."
Come here, boy. Let me talk
We
to you for a
are
minute.
very much and continue to be exactly. We continue to be a generation or people who have shared stories through spoken word, and that is how we communicate values and lessons and really create an experience. And this was before you had thousands of different movies to potentially watch on Netflix, hundreds of different shows to download on Hulu. There was no Disney Plus. There was
Yeah.
no, 24-hour news and all the stuff we have now. Before that, there was simply the voice,
Hmm.
your ability to tell a story. And in a lot of cultures, people believe that um, if your story is passed down, if you continue to share any part of your experiences with someone else, as long as your story continues to be shared, then you're essentially immortal. Your legacy continues, and certainly the people who are impacted by that story are part of your legacy as well. And so, yeah, I think to tie it all back, what makes a great storyteller is a person who recognizes the power of a story.
Mm,
We are a
mm.
people who, yeah, as people, we we process information through images. If I tell you right now to think of a blue car, right? I said, think of a blue car. In your mind, you may be thinking of, well, I'll just ask you, like, what model of car comes to mind just when I said, think of a blue car?
Well, it's funny you say that because and I always think of this. My first car was a 1979 Pontiac Phoenix. Now I know you ain't never heard of it in your life.
I've heard of Phoenix. Yeah,
Really?
I know
Okay.
cars. I know
It
cars. Yeah.
it was a
Yep.
1979 Phoenix that I saved up my money. My dad bought the car because he lived up in Pennsylvania. Bought it from an older lady and I bought it in 89, 1989, and it was a 79. It only had 32,000 miles on it when I got
Mm.
it. 10-year-old car, 32,000 miles on it. It was owned by an older lady that really pretty much just drove from home to church, maybe to the grocery store, up there, all those things. And the color was sky blue. It was the Carolina blue, and that was what I loved about it. And that's what I called it. It was it,
Mm.
I called it I called it Carolina blue. That was the name that I gave it because it was a light blue. It was that light sky blue color.
Listen to that. Now, notice all I said was blue car,
Yep.
and you instantly went to like your first car. And so, whatever you associate, you're going to have a picture to match whatever it is that you're trying to say. We understand the world in pictures and we understand the
Mm,
world in models.
right.
And we can get into the models later. But in general, that's kind of how we interpret the world. And so, if you really want to influence behavior, if you want to um, create a movement, when you look at the great folks who are associated with leading powerful movements, whether it's Gandhi, Martin Luther King, the ability to be a strong orator
Mm,
is closely connected to leadership, influence, persuasion. And these are all things that it doesn't matter if you're a software engineer or the leader of a Fortune 500 company or an entrepreneur out there starting from scratch. These are all traits that are going to serve you well in your professional and your personal life.
yeah, absolutely. That is absolutely correct. And being able to do that. And I like how you did that, where you do, as you know, when you said, like I said, the first thing, like you said, the first thing that went to my mind when you said think of a color, when you said think of the color blue, automatically I thought about my first car because it was sky, it was that Carolina blue, and it got me through college. Got me through college. So that's cool. Now, as as a speaker, um, is there a process to developing a story, and getting people to getting the audience to pull what you just pulled out of me? You just, like you said, you just asked a simple question, and that pulled what it was out of me. Is there a process to that, or when you're thinking of having you
Yeah,
have a speaking
yeah,
thing?
absolutely. I mean, yeah, absolutely. One of my earliest, I remember taking a Dale Carnegie class
Mm,
way back in the day before I even got involved with Toastmasters, which is another resource we could talk about here. But I'll tell you this, if you'd been sitting next to me in a small classroom in 2006, Leroy, you would have watched as I um, stood up, nervously made my way to the front of the classroom and prepared to deliver my very first speech in Toastmasters. And so, many people watching right now might be like, "What is he talking about?" Toastmasters is a
I hope I didn't lose him. He kind of froze up. But we'll see, get him in the middle of his story that he was telling about being at Morgan State and actually getting up to do his first speaking at.
"Uh oh, we're back." Oh, you're muted, Leroy. Hey, Leroy, you're muted. You're muted.
I'm sorry, we talked about this before we went on about the. But anyway, but you were talking about going to your first, stepping up to do your first speaking engagement, or your.
Yep, yep. And there's storms going on right now too, so that's probably
Mm,
yeah, there's a like storm going outside.
coming,
But yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but my first speaking engagement, Morgan State University, and I volunteered, as I mentioned, man. You're from the ministry, so I was the person. As a true introvert, I couldn't lead two people in silent prayer, let alone lead an audience somewhere. But
Right.
I definitely wanted to get on the other side of my comfort zone
Mm,
and deliver this presentation. So there I am preparing to deliver this speech, and literally sweaty palms. I remember holding a piece of paper, like gripping it so tight, and just feeling the paper starting to get thin because I was like sweating so much. As I began my speech, my voice started to crack,
Mm.
and I started pacing back and forth, trying to get rid of some of that nervous energy. And it's so crazy because despite all of that, what was happening on the inside was way worse because I had a bad case of the butterflies. They always say, when you're speaking or when you're nervous about something, you had the butterflies flying around in the
Right.
stomach. Mine were like crashing into each other, trying to escape. And so eventually, and by the way, Leroy, this wasn't like a 20-minute keynote. This is like a 4-minute presentation. And I eventually wrapped up my presentation, and I noticed that I was still alive. I noticed that everybody in the room was clapping. And most importantly, I realized that, hey, I just survived my first presentation. And if I could deliver one, I could deliver two. And then two
Mm.
turned into four turned into 10. Eventually, I delivered my 10 speeches to Toastmasters, and I started speaking outside of the club. I eventually left Morgan State University, got promoted, and one day got my dream job of being a professional speaker inside of corporate. So I was doing training and
Ooh.
development and all of those things. But it started back in 2006, delivering that presentation and realizing that to answer your question about structuring stories, there was nothing special about me, but there's something very special about the process along the way.
Mhm.
And I know we have a lot of people that possibly are listening to this live right now on a replay that are thinking like, wow, I can't be a speaker, or I can't see myself delivering a presentation, or, I have no idea where to begin. And the reality is that everybody starts from the bottom.
Mm.
Yes, there are some people who are born a little bit more extroverted, some people that enjoy the spotlight a little bit
Right.
more, but storytelling and speaking as an extension are learned skills. And so these are the story that you just heard me say. I've literally delivered that story hundreds and hundreds of times on multiple presentations and multiple sizes, and you get better as you deliver it more. And so the first piece of advice around structuring a story is practice. You got to get in front of more audiences and get more comfortable delivering. I
Mm.
believe the first it's kind of like you remember, Leroy, when you first learned how to drive that sky blue Phoenix. Like when you first, because that was your first car, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was your first car. And so learning to drive is very similar to speaking and storytelling,
Mm.
because when you learn to drive, you are internalizing every single decision that you have to make with that car, every
Right.
body movement, hitting your blinker, backing up, making a turn, checking your mirrors. Like, these are all very conscious thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fast forward to you driving 2 to 3 years later, most of us are like driving with one hand, we got a knee on the steering wheel, we're eating a sandwich with the other hand, we got something on the radio, we're talking to somebody in the back seat. So it becomes much more of an unconscious process. Sometimes it's
Mhm.
not always good, but
Right.
that's what happens. And it's the same way with speaking. The difference between the person that you are for your first presentation and the person that you are after you deliver your 100th presentation is massive. Why? Because when you step on stage and you're preparing to speak, there are all types of things going through your mind. Where should I stand? What do
Mhm.
I do with my hands? Like Talladega Nights kept putting his hands up. They say, put your hands down. He kept putting his hands back up. You know, like, will I remember what I'm going to say? How
Mm.
are people looking at me? Is that person bored? Is that person excited? Did
Right.
they understand what I said? Am I talking too fast? Am I talking too slow? Like, all of these thoughts are going
Mm.
through your mind in your first presentation, and there's really nothing you could do about it. But being able to practice and get more comfortable just being on stage, delivering a presentation, getting more comfortable with your content, then you can make the transition from what I call going from content to connection.
Mm.
So most outstanding speakers have made that transition because when you're telling a story, when you're delivering a speech or you're giving a presentation, if you're just starting out, all you're worried about is yourself. You're thinking about how you're coming across, how you're
Mhm.
being perceived. Is your outfit look good? Like, all these different things versus what the audience actually needs. So you can go from being a content centered speaker to more of an audience centered speaker. And the only way to get there is through repetition. You have to
Yeah.
speak over and over and over again. And so that's kind of the first part of storytelling, which actually has nothing to do with story, but what it has to do is your comfort level in presenting. And so I would say the more opportunities that you have to speak, whether it's on podcasts like this, if it's in a formal environment, if it's speaking in front of your class, if it's doing extra presentations at work, joining Toastmasters, I highly recommend that. Toastmasters.org, you can get more information on that. But anytime you have a chance to actually get up and practice these skills, that's what you really want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I've been listening to. I call him. He's my virtual mentor. Both the guy that we both know, Dr. Will Moreland, and he's been doing these in the morning,
Yes.
kind of like a focus things in the morning. And he was talking this morning about that very thing about repetition. He's like he's been doing the same thing, saying the same thing for the last 20, 25 years, and so he's like it's second nature to him. What he what he talks about, he doesn't he's gotten that to that comfort level, of course, like you were talking about, where he knows the information, he knows what it is that he's going to be talking about. So it's great that you talk about that, and we've heard Les Brown speak. Mamie Brown's baby boy telling that story, telling that story, and
Yes.
those things that become repetition to those we've seen on stage, and them telling their stories, and just like us telling your story about the first time you got up in Toastmasters to go to do your speaking. All of those things become a part of who what we become comfortable with. And I love the way that you put that together with the car, looking at the checking the mirrors, understanding how to back up, and once we've driven, and even when it's a new car, getting adjusted to driving a different car, because that car, let me tell you, that car was long. It was long. It was one of
Oh
those cars.
yeah,
It
I
was
know.
one of the cars that had the one seat in the front. It was one long seat. So having the bill, can and I'm short. Yeah, I know you tall, but can you imagine me sitting in that car trying to, driving that car, having to be able to adjust to being able to be able, like you said, back up, understanding the cars that may be next to me, beside me, or behind me, and understanding all of those things, and liking that to getting on stage. And you're right about I think each time we become a little more comfortable in getting on stage, because we understand these are the things that I'm going to be talking about. These are the things that I've talked about before. So it just becomes a repetition in our minds and everything like that. So I think that's great. Now, what do you think is the most important thing to remember in being a speaker and telling your story when you're on when you're on stage, and you're actually, or just talking to your clients, because as speakers we gain clients, whether it's getting someone to buy our books and everything like that too.
Yeah, yeah. So I think the most important thing, and I think there's examples of great stories all around us, and we can kind
Mm-hmm.
of pull from that. One of
Mm-hmm.
my favorite examples is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or the MCU. I go to that all the time because there are a lot of Marvel fans. If you're a DC fan, I don't know what to tell you, but 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 Marvel, you could pretty much, and why do people love Marvel so much? I mean, you think about it. So like these are all things that you can emulate in your own storytelling ability. And so when you're telling a story, there's some basic fundamentals that you need. Of course, you're going to need characters. And so Marvel does an excellent job, in my opinion, with character development. And so you're establishing these individuals that you begin to not just know about intellectually, but you start to care about who they are. You understand their motivations. And so that creates a second element of storytelling, which is called context. And so being able to not just say, hey, Leroy walked across the street, but, me being able to say, Leroy, was desperate to get across the street because he had an interview that he'd been waiting months to, he had an interview that he'd been waiting months to get into the door, and this was his big chance. He only had a few minutes left, and yet the traffic light is the traffic light, it seemed like an eternity before it would change. And so now I'm introducing like all this additional context, because you have to realize that as you are sharing a story, one or two things are going to happen. Just like in the car example, you either are going to give your audience the information that you want them to know, or they are going to make assumptions about the information to fill in the gaps of what you didn't tell them. And
Mhm.
so from that point of view, you have to, and now of course, you ever hear people talk about like why anytime you have a book that's adapted into a movie, and
Mhm.
then the movie comes out and it's a great movie, and the
Right.
people that never read the book love the movie so much because it's, it becomes really good, but the people that read the book are generally pretty disappointed with the movie.
Mhm.
And the common thing you always hear is that, they left out so much
Much.
detail.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
course, they left out so much detail. It's a 90-minute movie. It may be 2 hours. That the runtime, like, there's no way to do the type of world building and the context setting that readers, people that love to read, fall in love with. And you have a publishing company, so I know you know all about this. Like, you can express so much more in a written word. So,
Right.
in any case, characters, context. You also are going to eventually have some sort of conflict. And so something needs to happen. Like, a story can't just be, Leroy's walking down the street and that's all. Like, there has to be some sort of rising sense of danger, some point of confusion, or some sort of emotional element that's going to force whoever the primary character is into some sort of decision or situation where they have to, take action. And so a great story won't just, you know, throw somebody into it. You can, but there's a sense of like this rising conflict that happens over the course of the story. Um, Eventually, that conflict leads up to a head, which we call a climax. And so the
Mhm.
climax is, of course, the opportunity for the hero to resolve whatever tension has been taking place up to that point. Typically, a key element in resolving that tension is what we call a hero. And so a hero doesn't necessarily have to be a person. A hero could be anything,
Mhm.
but a hero is a mechanism in a story that is essentially guiding the main character to whatever the
Right.
resolution is. But a hero could be a book. A hero could be, something that you read. It could be advice from your grandmother. It could be a quote. Like, it doesn't have to take the form of a person necessarily.
Okay.
Um, and then finally, we get down into the conclusion, which is essentially not introducing anything new, but kind of wrapping up the story in a way that's very satisfying to the audience. And then lastly, typically there's some sort of takeaway message included in that. So those are the main elements of a well-crafted story. Now you may say, well, that's a lot of elements. And you would be right. People study storytelling. We have some amazing people in our community. Andy Henriquez, he actually runs the Master Storytelling Academy. I got the
Okay.
mug right here. I
Uh-huh.
went down to Florida to, study at his feet for a couple of days
Mhm.
with a bunch of other people, learning how to master your signature story. We have Craig Valentine, who's actually from Maryland, went through Toastmasters, the 1999 world champion of public speaking, one of the best storytellers that I know, and so many more. But the model stays the same, and there are different variations of, how to tell an effective story. But to go back to your question, when you're asking, what is the most important element of storytelling or speaking, I think it's the fact that anytime you are delivering a presentation or telling a story, you're basically inviting your audience to go on a journey with you. And so if you think about a story the way you think about going on a trip or inviting somebody to go on a trip, just keep all of those rules in mind. So, for example, Leroy, right now, if I'm like, hey, Leroy, man, guess what? bro, I got the hookup, man. I got you an all expensive paid trip. You're coming with me. We're leaving this Friday. Pack your bags. Get ready, man. It's going to be a great time. You'd probably be excited, just by how excited I am,
Right, right,
but
right.
you're missing a lot of information there. You're probably going to be like,
Where we
where are we
going?
going? Because I need to
How
know
long we
what
gonna
the
be there?
yeah, you're like, I mean, are we going to the Arctic? Do I need swim trunks?
Right.
Like, are we going to Vegas? Do I gotta get some money? Like, how long are we going to be there? Are we taking a train? Are we taking a plane? Like, I need it's the exact same thing when you're inviting your audience to go on a journey
Wow.
with you. And so you need to make sure that there's a sense of communication around where your story is and where it's going, because we've all been in situations where, again, at a family reunion talking to an uncle, and I'm like, yo, bro, when does this story end? When is this trip? When are we coming back? Because I got stuff to do. When are we coming back? And in addition to that, what happens? So, like, imagine going on a trip and we go on a plane and everything, and then the captain's like, hey, he gets on the intercom, like, ladies and gentlemen, we have an important announcement. Unfortunately, right now we have a and then it goes out.
Right.
And you're sitting there, you're like, what's the announcement? Like, what's going on? Like, is this something? And
Right.
they just never, the plane lands and they just never come back to it. And that's the equivalent of introducing characters
Mm.
or situations or information to your audience that you never come back to. And so you leave a question in your mind, like, what happened? And so I think if you can kind of think about it in that sense, like you're taking your audience on a journey, you want to tell them what you want to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. It's like the highest
Wow.
level,
I like
simplistic
that. I like that.
way to think about speaking. You want to have a sense of completion. So anything that you are introducing or telling your audience, they're going to have a sense of dissatisfaction if you don't effectively close out anything that you introduce. So this is a big topic, but in the limited amount of time that we have, that's the best kind of synopsis that I could provide for anybody that's looking to get better in storytelling.
No, I love it. I love that. I love that, man. And I want you now. You did this. You actually did. I've seen one of your presentations. And you tell me if you spoke on a little bit of it, just in there. But you have what's called your star theory, and star stands for something. Tell me how that ties into being a speaker or a speaking and telling your story.
Yeah, so I think what you're referring to, the STAR method, number one, I did not come up with it. So
Uh-huh.
in case
Well,
like people are watching it, like,
you.
yeah, I did not come up with the STAR method. I actually, so when you're preparing for an interview, there's a lot of different types of interviews. You have panel interviews, one-on-one, etc.
Right.
But the type of interview questions, there's a model of interview questions that are called situational interviews. And so if you've ever been in a situation, or if you've ever been in an interview and someone asks you a question, tell me about a time when. That's code for you have found yourself in a situational interview. And
Okay.
it's storytelling time. That's
Hmm.
storytelling time. And I think for professionals, for any of us who are either interviewing other people for our companies or are finding yourself in a interview to go up for a position, having this model in your mind is really helpful. And so the STAR method is essentially a way to ensure that you can effectively answer that behavioral interview question in a way that the person who's asking you is going to feel satisfied around everything that they need. And so the STAR stands for situation. The T oscillates with different things, but the situation, so that's like the context. The T is like the task, so like what needed to be done or what had to be done. The
Hmm.
action is the A, and that's for the action that took place, or specifically like what did you do as the person in the story, because you are the main character in this situational interview. and then the result, like what happened as a result of your action.
Okay.
And so if you're find yourself in a situational interview, you want to follow that framework, because what the interviewer is really listening for, they're listening for a little bit of the situation. So they'd be like, tell us about a time where you had to, work with a difficult coworker. you know they're listening for what happened, how you dealt with it, and what was the result. And so I could say, hey, I was on a team one time where, this individual that I was working with, it was a $30,000 project. We were 2 weeks behind, and it seemed like we weren't going to hit our goal. And so I had a teammate. It seemed to me that he just wasn't pulling his weight, and so I decided. So that situation. And I provided the context. The task is we have to get this project done, and we have 2 weeks to get it done. The action, what did I do? So I, not everybody, the company, not my boss, not like what Brian, decided to do was take this coworker to lunch and really find out exactly what it is that they were dealing with. As it turned out, it wasn't that they were lazy or uninspired. They were dealing with, caring for a sick parent. And so
Mm,
they were having trouble trying to navigate, both of those things, but they
right.
didn't want to tell anybody because
Right.
they felt like they would, I guess, be taken less serious or whatever. And so what I did was help to figure out exactly what it is they were struggling with, and we divided the remaining work amongst our team. And
Wow.
as a result of that, we ended up completing the project on time. We got raises, we got promotions, all the good stuff. So that's kind of a high level example of that at work. And so the reality is that we tell stories all the time. Not all of them have to be Marvel Cinematic Universe, epic Thanos level stories. Some of them are simple, really, really short, but powerful tools at our disposal to help other people around us, whether at work, your personal life, in your business, whatever, more easily understand what it is that we're trying to do. What do we potentially want people to do or understand in a more meaningful way?
Yeah, and I love that concept, and it's funny you tell that story because I always think you never know what people are going through really quickly. Because I worked which was a sub company of Aerotech, and I know you worked for Aerotech. I worked for Onsite, and this time, and we did these management training exercises, and we they took us our section, our group, out to it was like a resort. It was just a whole day for us to be able to kind of connect with each other. And
Yeah,
as we started to communicate with each other, you found out the very thing, like you said, that you things that you would never know about somebody because because they don't talk about, they're not everybody talk to, everybody's not going to be telling their business at work, but you never know what people are going through. And by you communicating with him, just a simple gesture of going, hey, let's go have lunch, and by having that conversation with him, he lets you in to what his story was. That was his story, was he, taking care of his parent. And you were like, as a result of that, you were able to say, wow, okay, what can we do to be able to, alleviate some of that stress that he was going through and everything like that. And that's powerful. That is powerful.
yeah,
And that's good. And that's a great way to be able to understand situations, stories, and being able to articulate something like that on stage. Or, and I'm thinking about this as I'm looking at your background. You got a couple things. One, you have Speakers Magazine, which I know
yep,
that you are part of, and then you have books that are there, and then even this what we're doing here. These are effective ways of being able to storytell. Magazine, when you're in a
yes,
magazine, you tell a particular story. When you have a book,
yep,
you tell a particular story. When you do it digital, when you have digital content, you tell a particular story. So there's different ways that we can tell stories other than, in addition to being on stage, and doing it
absolutely.
from a particular platform and everything like that. So I like that. And in saying that, now I want you. We're gonna, for the last for the few minutes that we have left, we're gonna talk about the Black Speakers Network and how, what is Black Speakers Network, for everybody that might not be familiar with it. and then what kind of what the membership entails, and then who is the Black Speakers Network for, and who should become a member.
Yeah, yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier, we are a speaker development and training community. So we operate really like an association, if you
Hmm.
will. And so right now, the professional speaking industry is very interesting. I think we fall under a much broader category of what you would call information marketing. And
Okay.
so for people who are interested in being able to essentially provide content to a specific audience, that's what speakers are tasked with. And there are many ways to do that. You have folks who are writing books. You have people who are creating their own content, training courses, writing blogs, creating digital products, their own signature programs, etc. And so speaking is just one avenue under that information marketing umbrella. But at the end of the day, what I recognized in 2016 when I started Black Speakers Network is that there were some communities and associations and things that were focused on speaking,
Hmm.
and Toastmasters is one of them. But when it came to the business of professional speaking,
Hmm.
I really wanted to do something that impacted the representation of speakers of color and Black speakers specifically, especially coming from an HBCU, Morgan State University again. MSU in the house. It became very clear to me that this is um, this is a path that was necessary. And one of the reasons why is, you know, right now the state of our country is such that black people, African Americans, we represent about 13%, 13 to 14% of the population,
Hmm.
but yet control very very small percentage of
Yeah.
the overall wealth.
Right.
And the numbers unfortunately haven't changed much in the last 50 years.
Right.
And so and there's too many factors to kind of go into this conversation with. But one of the things that stood out to me is that um, if the ability to create and keep wealth is tied to those numbers, and also to create and pass down generational wealth, then one of the most important things is, okay, well, how do we create wealth? And we hear the common things of real estate and entrepreneurship. um, Real estate, entrepreneurship, and investing, I should say. So if those are the core three pillars, then um, certainly we should create as many avenues as possible within the Black communities to open up paths to home ownership, to be able to not just start but successfully create uh, maintain and grow and scale businesses, and to invest our money in ways that produce long-term tax advantage results. And so that's my long way of saying I recognize this need. And so to me, as we think about entrepreneurship, this space of information marketing, being able to package what and the results that you either created in your life or in the lives of other people, is one of the simplest paths. It's not necessarily easy, but it's one of the simplest paths to be able to do that. Because if you want to be a speaker or a coach or consultant, you don't need any special degree. You don't even need any necessarily specialty training. You need, a group of people that you're going to serve. You need to know what you're doing, and you need to be able to package products and programs. And so that's what BSN is essentially focused on. We really want to be able to create the next generation of speakers. But in reality, we're creating the next generation of entrepreneurs. We're creating the next generation of millionaires. We're creating the next generation of people who now have a skill that they can then leverage to create the type of wealth necessary, not only to change their life but the lives of their entire family tree. And so that's what that's the undercurrent of kind of what we're doing. But for the association specifically, when people join Black Speakers Network, generally they come to us because they are already generally interested in speaking. Maybe you've done some speaking before, you've done training, or maybe you've already been paid as a speaker, and now you're just trying to figure out, how do I do more of it? How do I get access to stages? And so basically, what we provide is three things: we provide training, we provide community, and we also provide access to speaking opportunities, as well as individuals who produce their own stages and try to bring all that together under one ecosystem, so that you don't have to go out looking for somebody to build your website or create a video, or that can is hosting an event that you may be a good fit for. It's already there, and we actually bring those opportunities to you. And so that's what BSN is in a nutshell. For folks that are interested in joining, we have a program called BSN Premium. So as a premium member, you not only get access to the community, but you get access to a higher level of training, as well as access to what we call speaker opportunity alerts. So every single
Okay.
week, yeah, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we're sending out speaking opportunities to national conferences, associations um, that are actively looking for speakers. And then if you're interested, all you have to do is apply to those specific opportunities. And so that's really what we're focused on.
Cool, cool, and that's awesome. So that's what the products and services. Can you talk a little bit about the I guess the products and services that you all offer within it for the I know that they may come to
Absolutely.
it. So talk a little bit about those.
Yeah. So number one is training. So that's a free resource that's there. So just by going
Okay.
to our Facebook community, which is you can Google it, but it's bit.ly/BSNFB,
Mm-hmm.
all lowercase. The Black Speaker Network community, every single Thursday, we do what's called a speaker development class.
Oh, cool.
A
Mm-hmm.
speaker
Mm-hmm.
development class is designed to teach one fundamental skill in the area of speaking. And so for us, one of the products that you mentioned, the Speak Up book,
Uh
wherever it is, right here, the Speak Up book is which we actually give away for free now, because we just want people to be
okay.
able to have information. You can still buy a copy on Amazon, of course, but we
Right.
also provide it electronically as well, because it has our entire model in there of, we want to make sure that speakers get clarity on five fundamental areas of growing. So that's getting clarity on your mission, your message, your marketing, how to monetize, and how to manage your speaking business. And so this is business 101 for speaking. Like, most people are familiar with, or they may have a preconception that speaking is, hey, if I got a message and I'm just a really good speaker, I can get paid. And unfortunately, that's not the case. You can be the best speaker in the world, but if nobody's able to find you, it doesn't really matter. Or
Absolutely.
if they are able to find you, but you don't have an effective system set up where you are able to then effectively market to your target audience. If you don't send your invoices out on
Yeah,
time,
that's what I was going to
if
ask
you
you. No, I was
don't
going to ask
like
you about
have
the
a way to
shirt, about the
capture,
T-shirt.
you need things. It runs just like any other small business. You got to have an operational side. You have to have marketing. You have to build a brand. You have to create awareness. You have to have a message, and you have to be able to deliver. And so those are the types of things that we spend time on. And so when it comes to products and services, it's really about a combination of digital products, information resources. We host events throughout the year, as well as have an incredible network of partners who provide so many great services: professional speaker websites, event management, photography, videography, speech coaching. We have TEDx coaches. So, really, once you come into the community, whatever area that you're focused on, we can direct you to a product or service to support you with that specific need.
And that's awesome. That's awesome. Now, um, the last thing that I will talk about, I'm gonna ask you this question, and then I want you to give the information on how people where people can go to sign up to be a part of the Black Speakers Network community. Um, what does Black Speakers Network mean to you?
Yeah, so it possibility. To me, it represents possibility and hope because at the end of the day, um, what we know is that there are people hurting right now. We just came through one of the deadliest years due to
Yes,
COVID-19 pandemic. But even before that, people were every single day. People are struggling just to figure out life.
yes,
Whether it's success in your marriage to you know personal finance, fitness, leadership, mental health. There are so many different things that people are hungry for, hungry for information.
yes,
But what we recognize is that um, one thing that we recognize is that information in a silo doesn't lead to transformation. Most people, if most people are trying to build a better body, they're trying to lose weight, get in better shape. Everybody knows the formula for success to have a better body: move more, eat less. That's it. Yeah. Move more and eat less. Now, there's a lot of nuance in there, and
right.
so that's why you hire a personal trainer. But if it was just if we were able to create results in our life just based on information, we would already be rich and famous.
Yes,
We would already be in immaculate health. We would already have incredible relationships because most information you need to have an amazing life is free on YouTube.
mm,
It is. So now it's not just about having an amazing speaker or somebody giving you the information. And certainly there's things that we can always learn and apply to make things better. But for most of us, it's not about having access to the right information. It's about having access to someone who can contextualize that information and make it make sense for us in our life based on who we are, where we are in our life, and where we are uniquely trying to go. So those are the things where I think BSN, when I say hope and possibility, because ultimately people thrive when they have an opportunity to not only get access to great information, but also get access to people who can really help them solve a specific problem in their life, can introduce them to communities of accountability so that they don't, as humans, we are going to naturally fall backwards. Even if we're really motivated to do something, we will naturally like fall back. And so having somebody that can help us, push through that is powerful. And then finally, being able to um, help support and grow the people who are then going to go out and ultimately impact millions and millions of lives. Not because they couldn't before, but now they have examples of other people, the Dr. Will Morlands of the world, the Quinn Conyers, the Cheryl Woods, the individuals who are like, I not only see somebody who did it, but I watched them grow, and
mm,
now they give me the blueprint that I can go do it too. That's where I think the rubber meets the road. And so, yeah, the BSN to me represents hope and possibility, and I hope that everybody in our community, feels the same way.
absolutely. Now, how can folks connect with you and connect with the Black Speakers Network if they want to become a member and part of the community?
Well, I keep it easy, man. We are in a Google generation, and so instead of giving long websites and stuff like
Yep.
that, just Google us. Like I guarantee, if you Google Black Speakers Network, the very first website, the very first few websites will be us. And so you can go to blackspeakersnetwork.com, but you just Google Black Speakers with an S Network, and you'll find us. Go to our website; all the information is there. You can apply to join, or you can also get access to our online community. And for me, you can also Google Brian J. Oles. I'm on every platform, Instagram, LinkedIn, Clubhouse, you name it. So also easy to find. But I'm at Brian J. Oles on Instagram. Actually, everybody follow me on Instagram because I'm trying to, get Instagram popping. But in general, you can Google me as well. So um,
Absolutely.
that's it.
Brian, it is always one. I enjoy talking with you because I enjoy our conversations that we have with us and what we're trying to achieve. as one as black men, but then two, what we're trying to do in, through, and for the community. And I love what you've always done. You've stuck to wanting to make people better. And you do that with the Black Speakers Network and everything that you have created with it. And I enjoy seeing how you've grown and just how both of us have grown over the years, and the things that we're doing, things that we've done in this entrepreneurship journey that we're on, and everything like that. So I thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come and talk with us today, and give us. I told y'all he was going to drop some knowledge, drop some nuggets, and some information that you all can use right away too. And that's what I love about um, great great people. They give you information that you can not just that you take. Yeah, I got some takeaways from it, but you can actually apply these concepts and the things that you talked about into your entrepreneurship, your business, the speaking if you're a speaker, and even being even as an author as well too. So check out the Black Speakers Network. I promise you, you won't be disappointed. You will certainly reap the benefits, and they will make you better. They will make you better. You might think you're good now, but they gonna make you better, and they give you access to so much information, knowledge, and resources that you're able to take your business, your brand, and you to that next level. So, Brian, I'm gonna let you close it out because I love what you say about the Black Speakers Network and you all's mantra, because
Yeah,
we're always on stage. So I'll let
yeah,
you.
first of all, yeah, I appreciate you, Leroy. Thank you for, what you continue to do to pour into the lives of so many people. And this has been great. So, as we always say in Black Speakers Network, keep speaking up because your audience awaits, and we will see you on stage.
Absolutely. So it's your boy, the Impact Builder, Leroy McKenzie Jr. And as I always say, we're in 2021. We're leaving the familiar and elevate our influence. The only way that we elevate our influence is becoming comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I promise you, the Black Speakers Network is going to make you feel uncomfortable, comfortable with being uncomfortable and being on that stage. So we appreciate you. This is the brand new development series brought to you by JNF Enterprises and the Black Speakers Network, the Black Professional Men as well, whose mission is to ensure the future of the African American male. So we appreciate y'all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you all soon.